Hey, welcome back. Day 3 of our interview with Coach Eddie Pennington from Tusculum University in East Tennessee. You know, uh, been great interview so far. First couple days. If you haven't listened to it, please go back. We talked a lot about some of the growth in Eastern Tennessee. We talked just a lot about boys' growth, some of the recruiting guidance that Coach Eddie thinks that some of the boys could really use out there that's missing. But today he talks a lot about goals that he has for his team, and how he's looking to grow his own program. And then also the fact that his program is an independent. So, we get his take on those independent programs and what they need to do to move forward. And then he really gets into how they train, and really how he's trying to condense, what some players get in, 6 years worth of playing time into just a few months so that they can be playing the right way and training the right way. So this is a great interview, great insight into a college program. And then we'll have a little bit of a bonus episode tomorrow. We were about to wrap up with him, and I had one more question, and he gave us some great answers. So anyways, we'll check in at the end. Here he is, Coach Eddie Pennington.
Yeah, so you're still in the infancy of your program. I mean, it's a baby right now, and have you had an opportunity to sit down and kind of think like, what's the 5-year goal?
So
program?
I kind of I try and hash out yearly goals, and I do every single year. Like, I have a goal every year in mind of what I want to achieve. Last year, I'll be honest, especially as a first-time head coach, it was really weird writing down my goals because, I feel like if I were to join a program, you already have an established program, you already have athletes there, you know what conference you're in, all these things are going on. You're like, okay, I want to, this is my goal for wins. And I go in and I'm like, I have no goals for winning this year. And I kind of hate it. I hate it a lot. But my biggest thing in our first year where I would just told myself, and, I write them down. Well, thank God. But I really wanted my team to just be cohesive and really, really strive towards building our culture. And that was my biggest goal. And, if we snuck in a few wins, awesome. That's really, really cool. But at the end of the day, I just wanted us to work towards cohesion and being, a unified group. And, 100%, there's so many hiccups along the way, and you feel like you're beating a dead horse sometimes because you just want them to get it, but they don't quite get it. And so that was, just my first year. The second year, same thing. I really wanted to win, but my biggest goal was we need to start producing the winning mentality and really start driving that home this year. We drove home last year, tons of cohesion, tons of teamwork things, tons of training things. And this year I'm like, we got to drive home winning. We have to keep instilling that belief that we can win. We know how to win. We're putting ourselves in situations to win. We're, trying to mimic them as closely as we can in practices. And, by our 5-year goal, very unfortunately within our 5-year goal, and it's kind of out of my control, but we can do our best to push, is I wanted to be able to offer my current freshmen or my current sophomores an opportunity to win an actual conference championship, because right now it's us and 7 to 8 other teams. We're independent. And I think that really hurts us, and it hurts, honestly, the growth of the sport, because you have 8 teams like that. Queens has been around, same thing, since 2016. Coker was around for, longer than I was at Belmont Abbey. They were around for 10 plus years, and then they decided to just shut down their men's program. And then you have Lincoln Memorial, you have Damon, and you have, Alderson Broadus, you have Duville. You have a few others up there that I literally just can't name off the top of my head right now. That they're all we're all training together. We're all doing things similar to these big schools. We're all doing things, and we're also competing against these schools in Conference Carolinas. And my biggest, it was a 4-year goal for these guys. And I'm still, I'm hopeful that we can, grow it and continue to strive towards it. But I want to be able to offer my kids at least an opportunity to win to win a bid into the NCAA tournament. And I think that'd be huge for them. But right now we're working towards growing our conference. We need 2 more teams within our conference to be considered eligible. And I was the 5th, and hopefully the 6th school was supposed to be a shoe-in of whoever that was going to be. And then right as I started my job 4 months later, Coker's like, yeah, we're stopping our men's program. And that was like a shot in the heart to the other schools that had already been doing this for years. And that was like the biggest thing was I wanted to give and I still want to, and I think it's still very doable with, obviously boys volleyball. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's grown 15% in the last 2 years, which is higher than any other sport in the entire nation. And I feel like with that, with having those stats in place and also knowing like there's opportunity for growth within our sport, it's very doable. But that's my biggest goal for them, is be able to give them that opportunity, because I think, they deserve it. They really do. When I first started playing at Belmont Abbey, we were eligible immediately. If we were to win our conference tournament, hypothetically, we go to the NCAA tournament, and we were a first-year program. And you have teams, you have Lincoln Memorial, who they started off their season playing against Lindenwood, playing against Lewis, Loyola, McKendree. They're playing good, reputable teams. And they're not just going in and losing like 25-10, losing 25-8. Like, they're going in, like they took a set off Ball State. They're going in a couple of years ago, and they're going to 5 with Ohio State. They're hosting Hawaii. They're having opportunities to bring really, really reputable teams to our area. And I think they've done a phenomenal job of at least pushing, volleyball in East Tennessee. And same goes for, King University, as well as a lot of these Conference Carolina schools. Like, everyone is trying to push and grow the sport. And I just think it sucks because we put in work every single day. What we do in our gym doesn't differentiate or variate from what a Conference Carolina school does. Doesn't differentiate from what an MPSF school does, what an EVIS school does, what an MEVA school does. We train every single day just like them. We put in work every single day just like them. And the fact that we have 8 outliers that have been outliers, like I've only been an outlier for 2 years. So I'm like, like you're saying, like I'm like the infant complaining, like I'm like the spoiled little child complaining. But the fact that we have this many outliers, that's still like, we still don't have like a set in stone opportunity to play in a tournament is unbelievable. And I'm really hopeful for my guys because, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination do they deserve it, but they at least deserve the opportunity to work for it.
Yeah. So I guess my follow-up question to all that is how do you and how do we help make that happen? Because, we want to see the sport grow too. And that's one reason we kind of started doing this podcast. And one reason I really started was I wanted to get to know more coaches and get to see how the game was growing. I've been kind of just on a lower level of it for a little while now, kind of doing my own thing. And again, so what can we all do then to get those couple more schools that you need? Because it's not really fair to those schools. And it seems so odd to me that they'd allow that many schools to just kind of be outliers and not really have that opportunity. I think honestly, I think Wade's doing a phenomenal job of helping to grow the sport. And I think that's been such a very huge positive for the sport itself. Just because something that I explain to my athletes as well as people that we are recruiting is on the men's side right now, Division I, Division II, okay? There's not even 60 teams, 60 total that you have competing nationwide. Division I, Division II women's volleyball, you have almost 700 teams, 700 schools that you can go to compete at. And like we both talked about, the opportunity, especially with the boys' high school, is growing, and the stats are there. Like we went through in the fall time, myself as well as all the other independent coaches, we went through a full like PowerPoint of presenting to our conference and saying, hey, we need 2 more teams to add. Those 2 more teams allow us an opportunity to compete in a tournament. And then as well as to the other conferences, because I'm trying to remember correctly, I know that, Alderson Broadus, they're in a separate conference, and a lot of the other schools up in the Northeast, they're all in separate conferences. But, maybe same thing with like the MEVA or the EVA, making a conglomerate and making a conference that allows them to just compete would be huge. And also the growth on the West Coast of, making the Big West an actual conference, I think that was a super positive step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it allows for more bids, it allows for more people to compete. That's huge, and it's great for the growth of the game. But I think until we're able to, not just and I think we talked about it when I was at convention in 2019, talking about a big school, like more big schools like the Ohio States or like the Penn States, starting up a program, and they feel like that's like the big push for them is, get another big school in the Midwest somewhere to start a program. They think that'd be a great idea. And
I'm all for it. But at the same time, why not continue to grow? We're already showing success. Like, we're showing success here in Tennessee of growing the game in a very positive way. Why not continue to do so? Why not continue to grow this conference? And once we do allow an extra bid, then that grows the game. It allows more matches to be televised. It allows for us to, get a little bit more on the map. And it's great. Like, I can tell you from the perspective of even recruiting, year one, I'm sending out 1,000 emails, like emailing kids left and right every single day, like, doing my diligence. And year two, like last year when I was recruiting, it was like almost same thing, emailing a ton of kids just over and over and over and over again, waiting for them to respond. And this year, it's been nice. It's almost like a 50-50. Yeah, I reach out to athletes that I'm very interested in, but a lot of athletes that we've been recruiting in 21, 22, they've done their diligence. They've, reached out to us. They have friends that play for us. They know of athletes that are on our team from their area. And it's almost like we talked about before. It's like this internal kind of marketing where it just starts marketing itself and it starts growing kind of naturally. And so I think if we continue that route of, showing like, hey, we have the high school growth. Hey, the college is there, and at least showing like it's not a black hole. Like, we're actually able to turn over a positive revenue number at the end of the year. I think it's a big thing because right now with a lot of schools that are seeming to add sports, they're schools that are they're revenue generated, and they need, they need to meet roster numbers. They need to meet roster sizes. And I think with us, we added beach volleyball, and actually we added bowling as well. But we had beach volleyball, bowling, and us all at the same time, kind of to fit the Title IX, and just had more student athletes. And I feel like if that's the push, don't we all want that? Like, don't we all want to continue to grow our sports and grow our university and, keep our university notable? And I think that's going to be super important for the growth of the game is, not just the word of mouth, but also the facts that have, been backing it up, that have been showing like men's volleyball is growing exponentially. More and more states are adding it. We have more programs popping up than any other sport. I don't know of any other sport that said, hey, we're going to make this a brand new conference sport. Like we're saying, the HBCUs, you're going to have a brand new sport. And I'm actually competing against one of them, competing against Kentucky State this year. And my goal is to go to every single one of those schools and play them this year because both for us and them, it's phenomenal marketing. And it's a great opportunity to, grow the game. And I think if we're continuing that route of doing that, I think it's going to be really beneficial. But I think just the opportunities itself is something that needs to continue to, kind of be noted, but also showing that, if we're growing this fast from the high school level, if we give the opportunities, they'll want to come play.
That's awesome, Coach. I feel like you're doing some great things, and I'm really excited about the growth of Tennessee, and I think that there's kind of a perfect storm. I think that there's a lot of universities popping up around there. I also think it's unique and cool that Vinny Lopes has done a lot in that area, with Off the Block, and I think Tennessee could be a blueprint for a lot of different states going forward. But that's on my end. Coach Miles might have more for you, but I'm looking forward to meet you in person when all this COVID's over. No, absolutely. And yes. I'm pulling for you. I think it's we want to send some kids out, on the West Coast and get them out in the world and get them out.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you coming on, and I think you've got a great career ahead of you, and you're doing some good things. And I admire coaches that start programs from the beginning, and I think you're learning more than you ever could imagine that's going to benefit you and student athletes for years to come. So
absolutely. I think this has been I never thought that I would do this, honestly, like start a program, but it's 100% like it's gratifying. And yeah, there's definitely days where it's like unbelievably stressful. You feel like your plate's so full, but it's phenomenal just to be in like on court with the guys. And I think that will probably be my favorite part. I'm not a big fan of all the admin work and all the crazy stuff we have to do every single day in the office. But the times I get to spend with my guys, it's phenomenal. And I really, really hope that we can, pray we get through this COVID life season and hopefully we find a bit of normality, because I really do I want to continue to keep growing our team the way that I feel like it needs to be grown. And I would love to have some California kids on our team. Like for me personally, it's not a secret. And I want to continue to keep growing our culture in that way. So I really hope that we can continue to grow the sport in a very positive manner.
Yeah, I think the last thing that I want to touch on that you said a little while back was just about you said something about how you were setting goals and that you were looking a lot more at team cohesion. I just kind of think that, when we look at a lot of these sports and like we're talking about growing new programs or starting high school, I think that's a great goal for all those coaches out there, is to look at that first, because I think too often we get caught up in the winning and we get frustrated easy, and then our athletes get frustrated, and it doesn't make for a good, it doesn't make for any team cohesion going forward. So I personally think that that's great. And I think that's something that's hard for young coaches to get on board with. So
I agree.
Yeah. Is that something that you've kind of always done, or did it take a while for you to kind of figure out that that's where it needs to start?
So it was kind of like a few different processes for me. So I can tell you like a few experiences that I had that really got me to this point. But first and foremost, when I first was playing at Belmont Abbey, it was we trained a lot, and I didn't understand why we did, because and I have guys that are the same way now. They walk in the gym, they're athletes, like, yeah, we're athletes, we're gonna hit the ball hard, and we don't do anything else, but we hit the ball hard. And I'm like, that's cool, man, like it's great. Now let's pass. And they're like, we don't like passing, coach, like it's not our thing. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm very very fortunate to have had some of the mentors that I've had, and also been in the gyms that I've been in, because from the get-go of me coaching at Springfield, I was around two other coaches who were both very structured, both very disciplined, both very organized. And I then had to hop on board, because I love, for a lot of things in life, I just love flying by the seat of my pants. I'm very spontaneous. I'm very cool with it. I'll be very honest. This is like the one thing in life, is my job, that I actually have organization. Like, I write down practices. I get excited to actually organize a practice. I don't like feeling like I'm lost during practice. And it's kind of weird, because it's not who I am as a person, organizational wise. And so when I was at Springfield, it was awesome for me to experience it, in terms of I was given, kind of almost free range to train all of our passers. This is me fresh out of college. And I'm like, okay, like, you want me to just, to train the passers? And it's like, and the gentleman that was the head coach, like, I've known him, and I knew him at that point in time for, like 7-8 years. And so I was just like, yeah, okay, like I'll get to it. And I got to train the passers the entire time. And we saw some really, really cool strides my first 2 years there. And I was like, holy cow, like, these kids are growing so much. And, to my dismay, when I left, just like, the program itself, they had a phenomenal season. They had like a 20-win season. And I'm like, oh man, how dare you guys have a great season without me? Because I really I helped, I was definitely part of the process for that. I was like, dang it, like, I could have had that on my resume. I was a year late, but I myself at Butler had like a 20-win season. So I was like, it's fine. I'll be petty here still. And same thing at Butler is the head coach that I worked for, she was a huge advocate of like, training, like she would recruit, and I think it helped me a lot, was she would recruit, kids that were very well put together and, could compete very strongly for you. And then she also had a few project kids. And I was like, okay, cool. Because I'm in the gym as an assistant, like with project kids every single day, like repping arm swings, repping footwork, repping passing, repping anything you can think of. And I get to this job, and I really, really had to, I'll be honest, I had to take a big step back in coaching, because we get into our first practice and I'm like, all right, hey guys, like, and I demo everything we do. Like, I physically demo every drill that we do, just so there's no confusion, but there's still confusion. And I'm like, hey guys, like, this is how we're passing. I show them my platform. I show them how my body's moving, give them like, a couple cues. And I'm like, all right, get to it. And we start doing this passing real quick, where we're just sitting on the box passing. I have 2 athletes doing it right. And then I have the other 10 to 11 that are just doing the craziest thing I've ever seen. I have kids that are like scooping and throwing their hands to the ceiling. And I'm like, what? I didn't explain it that way. I have kids that are like sliding their platform across their body. And I'm like, I didn't explain it that way either. And so I then came to realize that, a lot of the guys that I recruited, they're not like the girls that I typically would recruit, where, they come from reputable clubs like Wave. and they're very well put together. And I have to kind of like train athletes. And it was cool. It was really, really cool because the first like 2 months, you see like light bulb moment almost every single day. You see a kid getting better almost every single day. Like, this is phenomenal. This is amazing. When are we going to peak? When are we going to crap out? And I think they were getting to a point, and it was cool. They were getting to a point in our gym where I was like, okay, they're getting a little too confident. Like, they need to be humbled. And so we got into our first like tournament, like play date in the fall time. And I'm like, oh yes, like please someone crush us. Just crush us and put us in our place because we need it. We need it for growth. And it was like someone was out to spite me because our first play, we pass a perfect ball. We get a one-on-one on the right side, and our outside just bounces it just straight down. And I'm like, dude, like, why? Like, please, like, I want to be humbled. And it was so much different though, because we spent so much of the year last year, like talking about fundamentals, talking about, you know, even like setter footwork, talking about passer footwork, talking about blocking footwork, like talking about things that make a team cohesive, things that most athletes know how to do. And I had 2 kids in my gym last year. One who was I had an Italian athlete who was actually currently at Belmont Abbey doing a very, very good job for them, and he was our freshman All-American. I had him, and I had he's still here, an athlete who helped train the girls team at Florida State. And I had those two. Those two, they get it. They know how to train. Their bodies know how to move correctly. And I'm like, you guys are great. Just demo everything for me from now on. But it was like, you have to spark note an entire year. Like, you know, I'm like essentially how I explain it to other coaches that, you know, maybe aren't privy to like the men's side is with our program in specific. Like and I'm currently in the midst with a lot of our guys, whether you came from a great club or like a whatever club, I'm spark noting 6 years of experience into 3 months. And I'm hoping that you get it enough for us to compete. Because for a lot of girls, you know, you're starting up when you're, you know, anywhere from 8 years old to 12 years old, and you're going all the way till you're 18. So you come into college, you have a really, like most of the girls have a super strong base of what they're capable of doing. And with these guys, like, you're trying to establish them to the point where you can find out what they're really, really good at. And then once we find out what you're great at, we can elaborate on it, help you grow into it. Let's see if you can, you know, make it better and elaborate on these skills a little bit more. But we're trying to find what you're really good at when you walk in the door. And I think it's been a very, very big change of pace for me. It's taught me so much patience with these guys and, you know, with the growth of the men's game, because like, you know, I have athletes, like I have one of my athletes from Colorado. His mom played in college. He's been around the game since he was little. He gets it. Phenomenal volleyball IQ, knows the game inside and out. He won a starting spot his first year. Like he gets it. And then vice versa. I have athletes who they came from, you know, certain areas in like Virginia, and they're like, I have learned more in 3 days than I learned in 3 years. And I was like, that's the worst thing I've heard in my life. That's, you know, what you were privy to, and it sucks. And so that's just the big variance that, you know, that we went through our first year. And it really made me have to, you know, humble myself a bit and understand that, yes, I want to get to all the tactical things we can do in games, but until we can run a very simple in-system offense and be really successful at doing it, or, you know, this year our passing it's phenomenal compared to what it was last year. Until we can do those things really, really well, we can't press on and do more advanced things in our gym. And so we've been so gung-ho this year about, you know, being perfect in system, being perfect whenever we are, you know, in a free ball situation, and really doing our best to just, you know, be on it. Because, you know, in the men's game, if it's a free ball, if it's an easy pass, you know they're going to score. Yeah. For us, the first year, it was terrifying because we would get a free ball, and I'm like, for the love of God, someone put the ball away. But then we get an out-of-system ball, and they're like swinging balls to the walls, like going hard. And I'm like, guys, I know we train out of system a lot. This is polar opposite. You gotta score in system too. And they're like, oh, okay, coach, like we'll figure it out. And so it's been super, super humbling. And it's definitely been a year by year where I have taken, you know, the past experiences of my past schools. And, you know, the last piece that I'll talk about was, it was good for me when I went to whatever convention year it was after the Olympics. And I went to like a John Speraw talk. And he talks about the, you know, the Olympic national team and coaching them, and like they got the bronze medal that year. And he's telling us and explaining, he's like, I had the men's national team and I have like, the best Americans that you can have on the court at the same time. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. He's like, how long do you think it takes for them to get on the same page? We're like, oh, a day. They're amazing people. Like, they're so good. A day, of course. And he's like 2 years. He's like 2 years of like preaching the same thing, talking about the same thing, and doing the same things in our gym over and over again until, they're all in line and they're all in system. And I love watching the men's national team. I think it's like poetry in motion. Like, they flow together so well. They do a lot of really cool things with that program. And I really took that to heart because I've been a part of programs where you have, I think we're all a victim of it. You have a bad year and everyone's like, bail on everything you're doing, start from scratch. We're doing crazy stuff this year that we've never done before because what we're doing isn't working. And I then, thought to myself, because I was, in my second year of coaching at Illinois, and I'm like, I'm gonna trust myself because I've done this before. I've been here before. I know it works, and I'm just gonna drive it home. And I'm gonna keep preaching these same things because if I don't, I could lose their trust. And I've been the same way here, where we do a lot of similar things that we did in year one, and I'm driving those things home this year. And I'm super hopeful for next year and, the following year that the ones that have already been here, they'll continue to, make our gym move more cohesively. They'll understand, why we do what we do. And it was really cool. Just even this first year, I had to run 2 separate practices just based off COVID rules. And I write the practice plans on the whiteboard. We prep for practice. And as I'm repping, like our bigs, our middles, oppos, and our setters, my liberos and my outside pin hitters walk in, they look at the board, they start warming up, and my senior libero explains everything that we're doing, and they start repping. And I'm like, whoa, like, this is how it's going to be from years to come. Like, they're going to start figuring it out. They're going to start making the gym work more cohesive. And it's like peace of mind. And it was cool. I can tell you, like, the first day, it was really cool that I walked in the gym and the guys are warming up by themselves. They're doing like their ball control that we talked about, like, by themselves in our first year. And I'm like, oh my God, they're doing it. Like, it's things are happening. They're doing it. And it was cool seeing them actually take that one like baby step of ownership where coach doesn't have to hold your hand to start a drill.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a trying process because, you walk into, like, for example, you walk into our girls' gym and you're in their practice, they're talking, they're loud, they're rah-rah the entire time. And, a ball goes, one of my guys like, I guess mine. I think this ball is mine. It's kind of coming at me. I'll think about it for a second. I'm like, just call mine. It's okay. Like, be loud. So really driving those, in my mind, simple things home has been big focal points for us. And they go a long way because now when guys aren't talking on the court, like, people start to get mad and they're like, why are you doing your job? And you're like, yeah, see, it's not just me now. You guys get it too. Like, it's hurting our program. I'm like, we're going to take it more seriously. And the ownership's been really cool. And we've had people emerge in roles this year that I would have never fathomed them emerging to year one. So that's been really, really cool for us.
That's awesome. And it sounds like there's
okay. And then another great, chunk of this interview today, I think he talked about having to be patient with his athletes. And I think that's true for all of us out there, no matter what level you're at. You've got to have some patience. And, I think especially on the boys' side, he's right. There's a lot of times where these boys start as sophomores or juniors in high school even. And, and so they're getting a crash course in volleyball sometimes when they get to the college level as to really the best practices out there. So tomorrow we got one last little bonus section for you. It's not quite as long, but, it's amazing how much knowledge that Coach Eddie has about the game of volleyball, about how to grow men's volleyball, and really how simple all of it is. It's a very simple, easy take, and I think we need to, anybody who cares about the sport, whether you're a women's coach, men's coach, I think we need to look at some of this and try and keep growing the game. So anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Continue to follow us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to those podcasts, and follow us on Instagram at Valuable Coaching. You can also watch there on IGTV. So anyways, guys, have a great Thursday, and we'll see you guys back here again tomorrow. Hey, check out our sponsors, One Stone Apparel, onestoneapparel.com. They make great apparel for camps, clinics, physical education, whatever your needs might be, even uniforms if you need them. Talk to Dave at One Stone Apparel.